Hey friends, welcome back. My name is Jamie, and I love sharing tips about simple living, organization, and productivity. Today, I want to share some tips about habits. January has come and gone, and unfortunately, so have some of our New Year's resolutions. If you have given up entirely on your New Year's resolutions or on setting goals or habits altogether, I've got some tips for you that you may find helpful. It can be challenging to start new habits and to set new goals when maybe you just think it's too hard, or maybe you're so set in your ways that you don't feel like there's any hope for you. I guarantee there is hope for everyone. Tip number one, make it clear exactly what habit it is that you're trying to form. For years, I made the goal to get in shape, and I left it at that. And guess what? I never got in shape because I don't know exactly what it was I was going for. I don't know if I was going for getting toned, or whether I was going for being able to lift a specific amount, or maybe I was going for a specific amount of endurance. I don't really know, but I never specified it, and so the goals never worked out. And yeah, I was working out, but my goal of getting in shape never seemed to come to fruition because I hadn't really specified what exactly I meant by getting in shape. Make sure that you specify and make clear exactly what it is that you're trying to achieve. This year, I decided I wanted to take 10,000 steps a day. Now, I know that this is probably not going to be transformative to my body, but I really think it is a great place to start. It gets me moving, and most importantly, it is not abstract, it is measurable. I can measure with my Apple Watch how many steps I'm taking. I can evaluate my progress throughout the day and make sure that I'm getting those 10,000 steps in. And best of all, if I miss a day or two, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to continue to persist. Tip number two, schedule it in. Forming good habits, doing new things that are good for us doesn't happen naturally. It is something that we almost always have to work at. And if we don't allow a time for ourselves that this is when we're going to work on X, Y, or Z, unfortunately, it's not going to happen. Recently, my daughter came home from kindergarten with a book. The idea was that she would read this book 3 times. I would initial it off and she would send it back to school for her teacher to see that she had done it, and then she would give her another book for the next day. Now, initially, I thought, we read a lot at home anyway, like what's the point of this? But then I realized that just the simple act of her reading this book over and over again, 3 times in succession, was going to be really good for her as a reader. And so what we did is we decided she would come home from school, we'd get her situated, get her shoes off, her hands washed, her backpack hung up, take her papers out of her backpack, everything like that. And then she and I would sit and read that book 3 times. Now, I realized that part of the success of this was because we were making time to do it right away, before anything else interrupted, right before lunchtime, so that we didn't have anywhere else that we were going or anything else that we were going to be doing. And that habit formed really nicely, and even she loves and looks forward to that time where we sit down and we read the book together. Also, with my example of taking 10,000 steps, I have to make sure that there is a time that I am evaluating how many steps I have taken and how far I have left to go. So for me, that's usually right around the time that I start to make dinner. My kids are down here often working on homework or doing artwork or whatever they're doing. And it's a kind of a lull in the day where we don't have anywhere that we're going because we're about to start making dinner. My husband's still at work, but I have to be here supervising, making sure that if they need help, that I'm here to help them. And so I can't really go anywhere. There's not a lot I can get done. So I have scheduled that time to evaluate my steps and to see how many steps I have left to go for the day. If I still have a lot of steps left to go that day, I start walking laps around the kitchen counter. And oftentimes my kids join in and everybody thinks it's a great time. It's a great way for my kids to get their energy out, and it's a great way for me to get those steps in. And as a bonus, the other day my daughter was learning to count to 100. I helped her practice counting to 100 by taking 100 steps. She loved it. She thought it was great. And again, I was getting my steps in. Tip number 3, do it every day. How often with new habits do we give ourselves the weekends off or maybe a cheat day here or there and find that it's so much harder to get back into the swing of that habit after a weekend or after a cheat day? For about 3 years now, I've been trying to get into the habit of morning meditation. I've done pretty well at times for long periods of time, and then I've fallen off the bandwagon, and then I'll start back up and I do good for a while and then I fall off the bandwagon. Well, recently I decided with everything I have going on in my life, meditation was enough of a gift to myself that I needed to figure out a way to not keep falling off the bandwagon. Please tell me I'm not the only one that that's happened to. So what I decided to do is I decided to give myself plenty of time, so again, scheduling it in every morning before anyone else was awake. And I would get up, go in my closet, and do my meditation there. I knew I wasn't gonna wake anybody, that I could really relax, and it worked out. But then my kids had a long break from school. And I found myself thinking, well, maybe I can sleep in because surely my kids are gonna sleep in. If you have little kids, you know that's usually not how it works. They don't usually sleep in. So again, I fell off the bandwagon. What I ultimately decided to do is I decided to pick myself back up and start again. So this time, what I ended up doing is I decided to stop taking weekends off. I decided to stop giving myself those cheat days and make the habit something that I did every day. And I think it is 10 times easier now that it is a 7-day-a-week habit than it ever was, with 5 days on and 2 days off. And as a bonus, I am reaping the benefits of meditation 7 days a week instead of just 5. Tip number 4, find your domino habit. This is a tip I learned from happiness expert Gretchen Rubin when I read one of her books several years ago. But basically the gist of this is that you find that one habit that you can change. That is the habit that you can set in place that will set you up for success with other habits and just the overall success of your day. So for example, my domino habit is getting to bed early. When I get to bed early, I can get up early enough to do my meditation, so it sets me up for that habit. And I don't feel groggy during the day. I feel more well rested. I feel like I have a better frame of mind throughout the day. I'm more positive. I'm less snappy. You get the picture. So find what your domino habit is. Find that thing that you can do to set yourself up for success for the day. Tip number 5, make setting new habits as easy on yourself as you possibly can. Sometimes I know I've fallen into this in the past, we think that in order to form a new habit, we have to do it by sheer grit and willpower. And frankly, it just doesn't have to be like that. Obviously, willpower and grit do play into the equation, but you can set yourself up for success using other tips as well. One way I like to do this is by pairing something desirable that I like doing with something less desirable that maybe I don't want to do, but I have to get done. By pairing those two things together, it doesn't make it seem as unpleasant as it would otherwise. For me, I don't love cleaning. I love having a clean house, but I don't enjoy the actual act of cleaning. But one thing I do love is I love listening to podcasts. So if I'm cleaning, I am almost always listening to a podcast. It makes it so much more enjoyable. It makes the time pass more quickly. And frankly, it kind of puts my mind in a different place than staring into the toilet bowl as I'm cleaning. Along the way, I have been able to condition my brain to not be able to listen to a podcast while sitting down. And that is a habit hack that has been so helpful for me, and it has made forming the habit of cleaning my house on a regular basis so much more enjoyable. In his book, Effortless, Greg McKeown also talks about this same strategy. He loves getting into his hot tub, but he hates making unpleasant phone calls, so he pairs the two together and makes the phone calls a lot less unpleasant. There are so many different ways to use this particular strategy. I bet if you were to think now of some things that you really enjoy doing and some things that you really don't enjoy doing and seeing what you could pair together, I bet you might come up with several ideas of how to make those unpleasant tasks seem way less dreaded. Maybe for you, it's paying bills that you hate. So maybe pairing that with a treat might make paying those bills a little less hard to do. Another way I like to make forming habits a lot easier on myself is to use a visual cue. Several years ago, I was trying to get into the habit of taking a multivitamin every night. I would oftentimes forget until I had brushed my teeth, crawled into bed, and was just about to fall asleep, and I would remember that I hadn't taken my vitamin. I realized that this was probably something that I needed to figure out an easier way than leaving it to my mind to remind me at some point. I decided to leave my vitamin out on the counter right above where the drawer was for my toothbrush. I wouldn't go to bed without brushing my teeth, and seeing the vitamin bottle right as I reached to grab my toothbrush reminded me, take the vitamin. I'm the kind of person who hates surface clutter, so once I formed that habit, I was able to put the vitamins under the counter where I wouldn't see them, because now the habit was formed and I wouldn't need that visual cue anymore. So see if there's something that you need to do that you can leave yourself a visual cue. Say you want to read more. So maybe put a book or your Kindle or whatever it is you use in your favorite chair where you often will sit. Habits are so important for our brain. When we form habits, we are able to use less willpower to get things done and to change behaviors, because we are putting systems in place for our brain to be able to know what comes next, so that we don't constantly have to run around wondering what we've forgotten or in a panic thinking of all the things that we have not gotten done. The last way that I like to help myself make a habit is to use a timer. Up until a few years ago, I hated doing laundry. I mean, I don't really enjoy it now, but it's not as big of a deal as it used to be. I think the reason why I hated it so bad is because I would throw a load in the laundry, completely forget about it, come back several hours later or even the next day, have to redo the load, send it through the washing machine again, and it just seemed like this constant cycle, no pun intended. And it was a pain, and I hated it. So I started thinking, what can I do to make this easier for myself? For me, the way that I was finally able to get my laundry done in rapid succession, load after load, was to set a timer. I wear a built-in timer on my watch, and some of you probably do as well. I realized it took about 45 minutes for my washing machine to complete a cycle. I would get a load started and use my watch to set a 45-minute timer. When the timer went off, I would stop whatever I was doing, go up to the laundry room, put the load from the washer into the dryer, start another load in the washer, and this time I'm setting a timer for 70 minutes because that's how long it takes my dryer to run. And by doing this, I was able to get into the habit of doing my laundry in rapid succession. I'm pleased to announce that I have not had to run something through the washer multiple times in a really long time. It feels good. So see if there's anything for you that setting a timer would be helpful for. Maybe for you, it's cleaning, and setting a 5 or 10 minute timer and seeing what you can get cleaned in that amount of time is the way to hack that for you. Thank you for joining me today. I hope some of these tips gave you some ideas to maybe bring back some of your New Year's resolutions that you have given up on, or to even bring back some of the habits that you thought you wouldn't be able to form. Thanks for watching, friends. I'll see you in my next video.